Have you ever tried to defend yourself against lies, gossip, or attacks, only to feel weaker, more exposed, and less respected? What if I told you that defending yourself is often a trap? A tactic used by the powerful to make you look small. Today, we explore why never defending yourself might be the most dangerous form of strength, and why Machiavelli would agree. When a man rushes to defend himself, he does not project truth. He projects fear. He reveals to the world not his innocence, but his anxiety. And anxiety is a form of surrender. Machiavelli understood this deeply. To govern men, to influence courts, to survive betrayal and rise through chaos, one must never appear rattled. The moment you defend yourself, you lower yourself to the level of your accuser. You exchange the throne for the witness stand. In The Prince, Machiavelli does not concern himself with fairness or emotional vindication. He concerns himself with perception, appearances, the stage of politics and power where optics determine reality. When you defend yourself, you concede that your reputation is fragile. You broadcast your concern that others may believe the accusation. That is not power, that is exposure. Now imagine a lion, majestic and silent. Does it respond to the bark of a dog? No, because to respond would be to validate. To respond is to say, "Your voice matters enough to move me." But in the court of power, you must be immovable unless you choose to act. The one who defends himself tries to be understood, tries to explain, tries to regain control of a narrative that has already slipped away. But the Machiavellian man does not chase control. He manufactures it. He bends perception through force, through poise, through careful detachment. Think now of those who have fallen not by the sword, but by their own words. Leaders who addressed every criticism, who responded to every insult. They thought transparency made them noble. But the people do not remember nobility. They remember strength. Cold, calculated strength. The kind that says, "I will not explain myself because I do not need to." This is not a matter of ego. It is a matter of survival. When you defend yourself, you reveal that you care what others think. And once they know you care, they can control you. They can summon a reaction. They can manipulate your energy, your time, your public image. Machiavelli would say, if your enemies know how to provoke you, they know how to destroy you. Silence, in contrast, offers no access point. It is a wall, a mystery. It invites speculation. Yes, but speculation is powerless without confirmation. Why do powerful men wear masks of indifference? Why do emperors never respond to gossip from the street? Because acknowledging it gives it power. Even if you win the argument, you have already lost stature. The act of defending implies vulnerability. It says, "I am afraid your words might stick." But power does not stick to those who stand above the noise. It sticks to those who move forward, unaffected, unreadable. Defensiveness is a reflex of the insecure. But the Machiavellian mind suppresses reflex in favor of strategy. He waits. He watches. He lets others reveal their motives. In silence, you collect intelligence. In silence, you unsettle your enemies. They begin to wonder. Why hasn't he responded? Does he know something I don't? Is he planning a counterattack? This psychological warfare is more potent than any statement of denial. And let us not forget the court of public opinion. The masses are not rational judges. They are emotional spectators. When they see you defend, they assume there is something to defend against. Their imagination begins to fill in the blanks. You may be innocent, but their suspicion has been triggered. In their eyes, defense equals guilt. So what do you do instead? You maintain posture. You stay above the fray. You execute your vision. You continue to win. And in winning, the accusation fades. The world respects momentum, not excuses. Machiavelli believed that power was about managing impressions, not proving facts, not clearing your name, but ensuring your name remains untouchable through the appearance of control. Defensiveness is chaos. It is reactive. But true power is proactive, serene, and deliberate. It is the calm of the prince who walks through fire without flinching. Because once you flinch, they know they've hurt you. And once they know they can hurt you, they will do it again. They will do it louder. They will gather others to join them. What began as a whisper becomes a chorus because you gave it oxygen. He who defends kneels. He who remains silent stands. And standing is the first posture of command. You do not beg for understanding. You demand respect through presence, through restraint, through quiet confidence. The Machiavellian does not fear falsehoods. He fears irrelevance. And defending yourself only accelerates your fall from relevance into ridicule. Better to say nothing and be feared than to speak and be doubted. Better to walk alone with mystery than to crowd yourself with explanations. Let others explain. Let others justify. Let others expose their hand. You remain unreadable. Remain untouchable. Remain powerful. In the pursuit of influence, there is a language far more persuasive than words. It is the language of results. Machiavelli understood this truth better than most. He wrote not for the idealist, not for the moralist, but for the one who seeks to rule. And those who rule do not waste breath defending themselves. They let their success echo louder than accusation ever could. When you produce results, real, tangible power, something remarkable happens. The world begins to justify your actions for you. They stop questioning your motives and start admiring your achievements. They whisper about your strategies, your outcomes, your quiet victories, and they forget the noise that once surrounded your name. Machiavelli's prince does not plead for understanding. He conquers. And in conquest, the public forgets his sins. Ask yourself what would speak louder to the people: a man who delivers prosperity, safety, and stability, or a man who stops to explain himself every time he's misunderstood. The one who explains may win sympathy, but the one who delivers wins loyalty. And loyalty, not sympathy, is the currency of power. Machiavelli believed that results were a kind of shield. A shield stronger than virtue, stronger than honesty, stronger than any excuse. You do not need to be loved to succeed. You need to be respected. And respect is born from evidence, from achievement, from your capacity to move the machine of the world with precision and resolve. When you do that, when you act and the ground beneath others shifts, they stop asking why you did it. They simply adapt. Consider the lion again, not in its roar, but in its hunt. It does not announce its arrival, nor does it explain its decisions. It moves, it strikes, and the aftermath is silence. A silence filled with awe, not questions. So too must you operate, with less commentary and more impact. When you let your results speak, you enter a higher class of authority. You no longer live in the reactionary world of opinions and debates. You live in a realm of influence. You become untouchable not because you have silenced critics with words, but because you have outpaced them with deeds. You leave them behind. You shift the playing field so dramatically that their complaints no longer matter. Look at the leaders who endure. They do not waste time correcting every misconception. They remain focused on the mission, the outcome, the legacy. Their silence is not weakness. It is discipline. It is a strategic calculation, because each word you speak in defense is a distraction from the empire you are building. Let others talk. Let them speculate. You build. Even your enemies begin to hesitate when they see that nothing shakes you, that you respond not with defense, but with dominance, not with apologies, but with actions that reshape the landscape itself. They realize their words carry no weight, because your results are too heavy, too solid, too undeniable. And the people, they follow the weight, not the wind. In The Prince, Machiavelli does not advise leaders to appear moral. He advises them to appear effective, to look strong, capable, and inevitable. That appearance, even if built on manipulation, inspires order and confidence. The masses do not need to know the truth behind your decisions. They need to feel secure under your rule. That feeling, that perception, is born from the consistent delivery of outcomes. If you win battles, you need not explain your strategy. If you build wealth, you need not explain your ethics. If you succeed again and again, the world will craft its own story around you. You will become a myth, a legend, a man who simply makes things happen. And that is the most powerful reputation of all. It is not silence that protects you. It is victory. It is not moral justification that elevates you. It is control. Control of events, control of timing, control of perception. Speak when it changes the direction of the storm. Act when it bends the course of fate. But do not spend your life justifying yourself to people who do not matter. Show them. Show them what you're capable of. Show them why your presence changes the room, changes the rules, changes the outcome. Machiavelli would say, be feared for your efficiency, not loved for your honesty. For love is fleeting, but results are remembered. You will not be admired because you were pure. You will be remembered because you were undeniable. Let others explain themselves into irrelevance. You build monuments with your silence. Let your empire, your strategy, your sharp movements in the dark become your defense. Not words, not declarations, just undeniable proof that you are the one who always rises, always delivers, always remains standing. The most powerful man in the room is not always the one who speaks the most. Often, it is the one who speaks the least. The one who observes, the one who calculates, the one who controls the direction of every conversation without revealing his own thoughts. Niccolo Machiavelli knew this truth intimately. He wrote not for those who seek attention, but for those who seek control. Silence is not retreat. It is strategy, and in the hands of the wise, it becomes a weapon sharper than the sword. Because when you speak, you reveal your position. You show your hand. You commit to a story. But when you remain silent, you create mystery. And in mystery, others begin to imagine. They begin to wonder. They begin to fill the void with their own assumptions, their own fears, their own desires. You become a canvas onto which others project meaning. And that is where your power begins. Control of the narrative does not require loud declarations. It requires direction. The Machiavellian understands that he who reacts is already a servant to someone else's agenda. But he who remains still, patient, silent, he stays above the game until he decides to move. And when he does, it is never defensive. It is never apologetic. It is deliberate. He does not defend. He reframes. Silence buys time. Time to observe, time to gather intelligence, time to let your enemies overextend themselves. Most men are uncomfortable with silence. They rush to fill it. They reveal too much. They talk when they should listen. But the Machiavellian is comfortable in the void, because he knows the void is his arena. It is where uncertainty grows. And uncertainty, when directed with care, is power. Imagine being accused, being mocked, being doubted. And yet, you say nothing. You continue to walk with dignity. You continue to move forward, as if their voices are wind passing over stone. What happens next? They panic. They begin to wonder if you know something they don't. They wonder if you are plotting something behind the scenes. And in their confusion, they expose themselves. They act prematurely. They show their motives. And then you strike. Strategic silence is not inaction. It is preparation. It is a fog behind which you build your strategy while your enemies shout into the dark. When you finally emerge from the silence, you do so with precision, with authority, with control. You speak once, and it is enough, because everything before that moment was tension, and you controlled it. Machiavelli understood that those who dominate the narrative dominate the people. But to dominate the narrative, you must not merely respond to it. You must reshape it. This requires patience, discipline, and above all, the refusal to be baited. They will try to provoke you. They will whisper in public. they will raise doubts. But if you respond, you legitimize their noise. If you remain silent, you force them to speak louder. And in speaking louder, they often reveal their weakness. Do not answer questions meant to trap you. Do not clarify rumors that will die on their own. Do not give weight to the opinions of those who stand beneath you. Instead, speak in movements, in carefully planned actions. Let your silence create the suspense. Let the world lean in to hear what you will say, only to find you still unreadable. Calm, and when the time is right, when the silence has fermented into tension, you choose your words with the precision of a knife. You speak not to defend, but to redirect, not to explain, but to command. Because at that point, the room is already yours. The eyes are already fixed on you. And your restraint has become your power. People trust those who do not speak unnecessarily. They see it as a sign of wisdom, of depth, of control. A man who speaks sparingly is a man who is feared slightly, because no one is sure what he is thinking or when he will act. That uncertainty is your advantage. It keeps you safe. It keeps you one step ahead. To control the narrative, you must master silence. You must speak not from pressure, but from strategy. You must act not to soothe the crowd, but to shift the ground beneath their feet. Do not fall into the trap of justification. Do not believe that clarity will earn you peace. The world does not reward the clearest voice. It rewards the strongest presence. Let your silence become a storm. Let it whisper threats they can't quite define. Let it become the space where your enemies destroy themselves by guessing wrong. This is not deception. It is discipline. It is the art of staying unreadable until your power is undeniable. Let them speak. Let them twist the story. Let them believe they have the advantage. And while they do, you watch. You wait. You prepare. Because silence is not surrender. It is stagecraft. The calm before the strike. The patience before the takeover. The unseen hand behind the curtain that pulls every string without ever showing its face. The moment you defend yourself, you accept a role you never asked for. You become the accused. And in the theater of power, that role is fatal. It does not matter whether the charge is true or false. The very act of defense turns the spotlight onto you. The crowd forgets who made the accusation. They only remember the man trying to prove he's innocent. That man, in Machiavelli's world, has already lost. A prince does not descend into the courtroom of opinion. He does not beg to be understood. He does not attempt to clean the mud off his robe, because the mud only sticks when he touches it. When you try to clean yourself in public, you draw attention to the dirt. When you respond to slander, you validate it. What was once a whisper becomes a headline, because you acknowledged it, because you gave it life. Machiavelli teaches that appearances are more powerful than truth. And nothing ruins an appearance faster than panic. The accused is always panicked, always eager to clear their name, always hoping someone will believe them. But power does not ask to be believed. It commands belief through presence, through consistency, through indifference to petty rumor. You are not on trial, unless you place yourself there. The accuser needs only to point a finger. You, the accused, must now explain your every move. You must justify silence. You must clarify intention. You must recall forgotten details. But while you're busy doing that, they are doing something far more dangerous. They are writing your story without your input. You gave them the pen. All because you chose to defend. Even your allies grow unsure when you explain too much. They wonder, why is he working so hard to convince us? Is there something we're missing? They stop seeing you as the leader. They start seeing you as the liability, the one who distracts, who weakens the foundation with noise. And in politics, in business, even in personal influence, no one wants to be near the one who must always explain. There is an ancient principle Machiavelli would have endorsed: the more you say, the more you expose. The more you expose, the more others exploit. A single question, "Why did you do that?" can unravel an empire if you answer it the wrong way. If you answer it at all. Because questions are not always invitations for truth. Sometimes they are traps disguised as curiosity, and the smartest men, those who last, know how to leave those traps untouched. Defending yourself requires energy. It diverts attention from your mission. It makes you reactive instead of assertive. You go from commanding the field to chasing the narrative, from prince to prisoner, from strategist to suspect, and even if you win the argument, you lose something much greater, your authority. Because once people see you plead, they never see you the same way again. You may be right. You may be justified. But truth is not the most important currency in the world of power. Control is. And once you are defending, you are no longer in control. You are now following someone else's script. The accuser wrote it. The public interprets it. And you, the powerful man, are now just another character explaining himself on stage. What, then, should you do? You remain silent. Or better, you redirect. You shift the focus through action, not words. You advance your cause. You strengthen your position. Let the results drown out the rumors. Let your next move erase the last whisper. That is how Machiavelli's prince survives, not by arguing, but by advancing. Not by defending his character, but by displaying his competence. Your enemies want you to defend because they know it weakens you. It binds you to the very thing you wish to separate from. They know that a man who tries to clear his name is a man unsure of his standing, and nothing excites the mob more than the scent of uncertainty. But if you show no weakness, if you deny them reaction, if you stay composed, they grow nervous. They begin to question the effectiveness of their attack. And when doubt creeps into the mind of your enemy, you have already begun to win. Understand this: defending yourself will never give you the upper hand. It will only confirm that you feel vulnerable. But you must project strength even when you're under siege. You must make it known, without words, that nothing can shake your foundation. That accusations fall like rain, but you remain the mountain. That silence is not retreat, but readiness. That you are not bothered by noise because you control the storm. Machiavelli would not advise a prince to correct gossip. He would not suggest rebuttals or denials. He would suggest dominance. Swift, calculated, visible displays of control. The kind of action that renders the accuser irrelevant. The kind that makes defense unnecessary, because there is no longer a question of who holds the power. There is only one truth the world ultimately respects, and it does not come from speeches or defenses. It comes from the man who keeps moving forward while others talk behind him, the man who never becomes the accused because he never sits in their courtroom. He walks above it. He builds beyond it. He rules in spite of it. Power is not maintained by truth. It is maintained by perception, control, and discipline. When you defend yourself, you surrender the throne of your mind to the opinions of others. You lower yourself into the pit of gossip, into the arena of those who shout to be seen. But you were never meant to shout. You were meant to rule. Machiavelli did not write for the weak-hearted. He wrote for those willing to rise above the noise, those prepared to endure misunderstanding in exchange for influence. In his world, and in yours, explanations are traps, and defensiveness is the mark of a man already conquered. Let your silence disturb them. Let your results shame them. Let your restraint speak louder than 1,000 arguments. Because the man who never defends himself, who watches, who builds, who controls, becomes more than just a player in the game. He becomes the one who designs the board. Never defend yourself. Not because you're guilty, but because you're greater than the accusation. Let your power speak where your voice does not. Let your enemies reveal themselves trying to expose you. And above all, remember this: the prince never pleads. He leads.